Assalamu alaikum. I got a question for you. Have you ever wondered how this universe that we call home all came to be is my question. Lots of theories about the origins of our universe have come and gone. Until one theory in particular came along that physicists and cosmologists could agree on. They agreed on it, of course, because there is scientific evidence to support it. And you may have heard of it. It's called the Big Bang Theory. The founders of this are two scientists from the 1920s. Georges and Alexander Friedman, they both used Einstein's theory of relativity to prove that the universe is in a constant state of expansion. Then in 1929, the American astronomer Edwin Hubble confirmed this theory again after observing evidence that virtually all clusters of galaxies appeared to be moving away from all other clusters, which also indicates that the entire universe is expanding. Physicists agree that the theory is sound because the universe is in fact still expanding even now. If you open the Quran and read through all the verses that speaks about the origins of the universe, you will find that it confirms what physicists have been saying about the same topic. For example, in chapter 51, verse 47, it says, "And it's we, God, who have built the universe with our creative power, and verily, it is we, God, who are steadily expanding it." What we know about the universe is that space was created first and gave birth to particles, galaxies, stars, the earth, and you and me. In several places, the Quran also addresses the order in which various things were created in a manner of consistent with what science has discovered. For example, in chapter 18, verse 51, it says, "I, God, did not make them witness to the creation of the heavens and the earth, or to the creation of themselves." The universe expanded from high density and exploded into gravitational waves. The same gravitational waves from those colliding black holes in space that pass through the earth, causing the universe to stretch and expand over and over again. In chapter 41 of the Quran, verse 10, it says, "In 4 days he made in the Quran what anchors from high above it and put barakas in it, and equally measured out of subsequence of dwellers for those who ask." Let's break down the meaning of the verse. When God says he made in the earth what anchors from high above it, he's referring to the gravitational waves that are coming back from those colliding black holes in space. They act as gravitational anchors to anchor the earth and anchor things to the earth. Then God says he put barakas in it. Baraka is a word that people commonly use for blessings, but it has a deeper meaning. It means to grow and increase in value above and beyond expectation, emphasizing that the earth started small but constantly grew larger and larger. A strange type of matter caused the expansion of the universe in its early stages. This matter behaves very differently from the matter that we are familiar with today. Instead of attracting other matter, it repels it. This leads physicists to call it antimatter. Sounds like an antisocial matter situation. But antimatter actually disobeys energy and momentum. In conservation, it disobeys symmetric charge of conjugation and parity, and it disobeys our current one-directional time arrow, and disobeys causality because its early universe filled with this type of self-repelling, disobedient matters. Everything would be pushing against everything else, and that would account for the sudden explosion that gave birth to the universe. Matter and antimatter particles are always produced in two pairs, and if they come into contact, they annihilate another, leaving behind pure energy. So why do we still see matter today is the question. As far as physicists can tell, it's only because in the end there was one extra matter particle for every billion matter antimatter pairs. After that, the first stars began to form. They formed from the dense gas of the young universe, which came about when a cloud increased in density and then collapsed due to the action of the gravitational pull of gravity. The gravitational pull of gravity managed to anchor more and more matter from the collapsed cloud, resulting in the densest gas clumping and anchoring together, which eventually led to the formation of stars and even the galaxies. The formation of stars then paved the way for the formation of everything else in our universe. You see, when a massive star with a mass several times of the sun reaches the end of its life, it compresses and explodes as a supernova. And it appears that exploding stars or supernovas are extremely efficient at producing the dust or first solid particles that later forms Earth, like planets and rocks and people. Alright, verse 11 of the same chapter of the Quran addresses these points when it says, "Then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke, and it said to the heaven and the earth, come into being, willing to obey or disobey. They both said, we are willing to obey." From this verse, we can derive many things. Firstly, that space was created before the earth, as God says he created the earth, while the heaven was a smoke. When God says while it was smoke about the heavens, it's confirming scientific belief that the smoke resulting from exploding stars or supernovas existed in space for a long time before forming the rocky embryo of the earth. So essentially, the earth was a giant lump of cosmic dust anchored by gravity. It constantly grew larger and larger. Once it became large enough, gravity caused the earth to become rounded, forming what we call a rocky embryo. And after 100 million years of this rocky embryo growing, we have planet Earth. The Quran even alludes to the matter and antimatter that existed in the universe in this verse when it says willing to obey or disobey, and then concludes by telling us that it is matter, not antimatter, that managed to survive and still exists to this day when it says they said we are willing to obey, when astrophysicists joke, they say supernovas has bad habits because they belch out huge quantity of smoke known as cosmic dust. Dr. Loretta Dunn from Cardiff University described cosmic dust by saying cosmic dust consists of tiny particles of solid materials floating around in the space between stars. It's not the same as house dust, but more to cigarette smoke. Cosmic dust was also responsible for blocking the light emitted from the stars and galaxies, meaning that for the first 380,000 years or so, our universe was essentially too opaque to shine. Physicist Bartos from Columbia University states gravitational waves arrive at Earth before any light does, which exactly what verse 12 of chapter 41 indicates. He made in each heaven its affairs and adorned the nearest heaven with lamps by using the lamps as an analogy for light. This verse reflects the fact that the universe was in early darkness in early stages, and further reflects the sequence of events we discussed earlier, as God mentioned what anchors first, then mentions the light, implying that gravitational waves arrived at Earth long before any light did, just as physicists such as Bartos would confirm over 1400 years ago.